Massey is the principal, and then we have a murderer's row of legislative heft here. We've got Senators Broxson and Gaynor and Representative Pat Maney. So I just want to thank them for all their hard work. We did a lot in the legislative session. This is going to be one of the big things we did that we're going to highlight today, but we did so many good things, and so you'll be hearing a lot. We're going to be highlighting a lot of stuff over, not just the coming days, weeks, but really it's going to take us months to be able to highlight all the great things that we were able to accomplish, and so we're excited to do that. We're also excited to be here back in Okaloosa County. The bill we'll sign today. We came here saying we needed to do this change, and so we're coming full circle. But also just great to be in Okaloosa County, to know that in Florida, with counties like Okaloosa, we were leading throughout COVID. We said kids need to be in school. We're going to make sure that they have the right to do that. And there were a lot of places around this country where the kids were locked at home while all our kids were going to school here. And we said, we're going to put our kids first. We have no tolerance for COVID theater in Florida. We are not going to be doing these destructive policies. And if you look now, what they just did, they extended the forced masking on airplanes and on transportation. Now think about this. You go on an airplane, and if you just want to sit there and read a magazine without a mask, they say that's the worst thing in the world. But if the person right next to you pulls the mask down and fake sip on water for 2 hours, then they don't have to wear the mask. I mean, give me a break. This is theater. This should not be extended. It should have never been done in the first place, but clearly now this is a farce. And so they need to repeal the transportation mandate. Let people fly and let them breathe normally. We got to stop with the theater. There's more people that would want to fly, but they know they don't want to have to do this. You have families where if the airline's going to hassle the family about masking a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, it's not an easy thing to do. Trust me, I know. We would never do that to my kids, but it's hard enough keeping them in order. Then you put that on there? I mean, give me a break. And so hopefully that we will get, because, we've led on this. I think other parts of the country have had to follow, but you still have some of the stubborn, this all for show that has no scientific basis at all. I would love to see the scientific study that says, no mask for 2 hours on a flight if you're nibbling on crackers is fine, but no mask if you're reading a magazine is somehow some major threat to health. Give me a break. So hopefully they'll be able to do that. I think it'll help Florida, quite frankly. We've got a lot of people coming. We set a domestic tourism record in 2021, even more than we had prior to COVID. It seems like people look to Florida as the first place when they want to get out of a place where they're not being treated well. It's like, how do I get to Florida? And the panhandle has boomed like never before. I mean, this is a huge, huge thing. So we're happy about that, but I think it would be even better if you got rid of some of these things. But we are very proud in Florida. Not only did we have the kids in school, we were the first big state to make sure they could do that. We made sure, and it wasn't a problem here, but there were other parts of the state last summer, forcing these kids to wear masks in school. We said, you're not going to force them, and so we came in basically over the top rope with an executive order. We had to litigate. There was some there, but basically we made sure that we were protecting the kids and the parents' choices in that regard. So this has been really, really meaningful, and we're proud of that. Also making sure that there were no COVID vax mandates for kids in school, that's a parent's decision in terms of what they wanted to do. There's some kids in different parts of the country, they say you can't go to school unless you do the COVID shot. Many of the kids have already had COVID and recovered from it, so we wanted to make sure, that we were doing evidence-based policies and making sure people have the freedom to make the best decisions that they can. So we've been in a much better spot than many of these other places. At the same time, throughout all of this stuff with dealing with COVID, we never took our foot off the gas from education reform and supporting a variety of initiatives that we've been talking about for quite some time. And so this year, one of our priorities was to say, we have this situation where We want accountability. We need to be able to measure results and make sure kids are actually learning things, but you kind of have this one massive test at the end of the year. They put so much time into it, and they teach to the test, and you get the results when the school year is already over, so there's nothing you can do to remediate. And Richard Corcoran, our Commissioner of Education, came to me probably about 2 years ago saying we needed to build up to the point where we could replace that testing regime with progress monitoring that is fall, winter, and then spring. We're going to end up having 75% less time for testing now, and that'll be more time for actually learning. But the good thing about the progress monitoring is the teacher gets the results in a week, the parents get the results in 2 weeks. So if you have deficiencies, say in the fall, you can have an opportunity to remediate that. And so you build up throughout the year and making sure that folks, now there's other school districts that have been doing this on their own. Richard and I were at several months ago an elementary school in Pinellas County. They went from an F to an A in like 2 years. And they do progress monitoring every 2 weeks because they want to make sure no one falls. That's not required under the law I'm going to sign. But I think what it shows is that framework, it's probably better for measuring knowledge anyways, but it's way better for actually being able to get the information you need to help kids with any deficiencies that they have. And so that was our goal. Now, this is a big thing because this has been so entrenched in our education system with the FSA for many, many years, and this is just kind of what they do. But one of the things that really convinced me that this was something we needed to do was during COVID, most of the kids were on spring break when everything really became a big deal. You had remote learning for a little bit, and I was telling Commissioner Corcoran, I was like, we need to get the kids back. The remote doesn't really work. And his thing was, well, Governor, once you're in the end of April, beginning of May, it's all FSA from then on out anyways. And I'm like, well, that's weeks and weeks. I was like, really? Do you really need that long? And so I was like, man, that may not be the best thing. And so you kind of cram in for the test and then go. And what I've found in learning, whenever time I'd cram for a test, yeah, maybe I would pass the test, but you kind of just, then it goes away. It's not really knowledge that you're carrying with it. So I think we're trying to build a stronger foundation. Yes, we're going to measure. We're going to make sure that that schools that there's accountability and that we make sure that the parents know that. But I think you're going to do it in a much better way. So that's what we're able to do with this. And so, you look, at this county, this is one of the best performing counties in the state. Where do you guys rank right now in Florida?
Historically in the top 5.
In the top 5 out of 67 counties. So that's a really good thing. And I think that part of it is because, they really do focus on the key elements and on the basics. And we're seeing that early learning, early reading, something that's really, really important. And I know that they've really done a lot here in Okaloosa County to be able to do that. So we had this proposal. We came to Okaloosa and did the round. What school were we at on that one? Ruckle, yeah. So we were there. We had I think we had parents and teachers there. We had Commissioner Corcoran was there, Superintendent Chambers. We said, here's what we're going to be trying to do. It was a big deal. We got into the legislative session and we were able to do it. So we set a goal, and now we're completing that. So now what will end up happening is this is signed into law. This year will be the last year of the FSA in Florida. So students will take it at the end of this school year. Then we're going to transition into the progress monitoring. The legislature fully funded that transition. And so next year will be kind of where we reset. So you'll kind of get a baseline, and then you'll have the grades commence in the following year. And so, we're looking at a couple years now for a transition, but I really think this is going to be something that's going to be really, really exciting. So, and most important maybe is it really does give the parents more of an ability to help their kids' education. There's not much you can do if you get the results after the school year ends and you're over on summer vacation. But if you get results in the fall, 2 weeks after an assessment, then you can go in, talk to the teacher, talk to your kid and help. Same thing with the winter, and then obviously at the end of school year they'll do the same thing. So this, I think, is really going to be parent friendly. I think the teachers like it better too. And the thing is when the FSA was first instituted, we didn't have the type of technology that we have to be able to do these monitoring assessments in the way we're doing it. So I'm excited about it. I know we're going to hear from a lot of other people, and it's good to be able to come back to Okaloosa. We said we were going to do something, and we followed through. But that's pretty much, I mean, we followed through. If you look, when I got inaugurated, I ticked off a bunch of stuff. We accomplished all of that and then much, much more. And so I believe, you know, when you tell people you're going to do something, you got to work like heck to get it done. And that's what we did in this instance. And this is just one of many things. You know, the FSA was tied to Common Core. And we got rid of Common Core in Florida my first year as governor. We have BEST standards, which was developed by Commissioner Corcoran and really, I think, reflective of what we were trying to achieve with academic excellence. We've also done a lot to support teachers in the state of Florida. Last year, we did $1,000 bonuses for every teacher and principal in the entire state of Florida, both school districts, charter schools, and that was something that we said, you know, while other states were closing down schools, we had everyone here learning, and you know, even though the union sued me to try to close the schools, most of the actual teachers wanted to be here teaching because they understood it was important. And so we said that was important to show our appreciation. We've also, over the last 3 years, increased salaries for teachers with a focus on the average minimum salary so that you have talented people graduating college. We want them to consider doing teaching. This year, we have the biggest increase in teacher compensation in the history of the state of Florida in the budget. And so that's going to end up, yes, it will continue with our average minimum increase, but it's weighted more now towards teachers that have experience and that have been on the job more than a year. And so you're going to see that. So that's going to be very meaningful. It's $800 million just for teacher compensation increases. And then you have the largest per pupil, the highest per pupil funding that we've ever had in Florida, and other money for school districts. So what we've done, 100% of that $800 million goes to teacher, but then the school districts could do even more if they want to. And then what we also did was Florida has a constitutional amendment, $15 minimum wage that's being it's being added in over a number of years. The legislature thought that we wanted to get in front of that as best we can for the employees who work in state government, but also to help the school districts. So they actually put in money so that the school districts can move up employees who work in the school system and get them at $15 an hour ahead of schedule. So there's a lot in there in this year's budget that's going to be helping that. And then what we've also done is a laser focus on early literacy. We did a K-3 reading initiative last year. We're doing more this year. And the bottom line is, if kids are reading at level by the time they're done with third grade, the chance of them graduating high school, being able to go to college if they want, all of that is very, very likely. If you're behind after third grade, the chance that you drop out of school entirely, you're not able to have success post-secondary, those chances increase dramatically. And so we see that, and so we're putting a focus on dealing with that. And I think that Commissioner's been very strong on that. The legislature's been very strong on that. And we're going to continue focusing on early learning, making sure our kids can read by third grade. We're also leading the nation in promoting American civics education. And if you think about how many it wasn't even a requirement in high school when I became governor. Now it's back as a requirement. We have opportunities for teachers to take courses in civics and get a $3,000 bonus for doing it. But at the end of the day, no matter what our students are doing, some will go to university, some will want to go into business or medicine, or who knows, some will want to go, and I think more and more kids should be going, if they have good technical skills, they can go in and they can make a lot of money even right out of high school right now because there's a lot of things that are very high demand. You're going to have people that do that and do well. There's going to be a lot of different pathways people are going to take in life, but every single person that comes through our school system is eventually going to turn 18, and they're going to be an American citizen exercising those responsibilities. And it's really our responsibility to make sure that they have a good foundation of what that means. What does it mean to be an American? What are the principles our country was founded on? Why is our Constitution structured the way it is? And then all the key moments that we've had, throughout our history. And so we're focusing a lot on American civics, and we're going to continue to do that. And quite frankly, I think if everyone had a really solid foundation in civics, I think we'd have fewer problems in this country than we see right now, because I think people would be more unified. So bottom line is we're going to continue to make progress. So we've got a lot of great people here before we sign the bill. So first I want to bring up Monique Stinson, who's a teacher here. Where is she?
Good morning. Days like this are ones that are long awaited by not just educators in Florida, but educators everywhere. A chance to do what we know is best for kids. Coming into the 2020 school year, I knew it would be one of the more challenging years of my career. Like many of the people in this room, I too had several unknowns swirling about in my head as I approached that year. One of them being, how exactly did this pandemic, in addition to the summer slide, impact the students that would soon fill the seats of my classroom? We would all soon enter a school year that would be unfamiliar to everyone involved. After a couple of weeks of getting to know you activities, rules, procedures, it was time to take our ready. I would finally get an understanding of just where my students were in math. I could already tell that my students were not very confident and reluctant to share their math thinking. After looking at the results from the first diagnostic, I understood just why. I had come to the realization that we would indeed have a great deal of work to put in order to have a fighting chance at the FSA, a test that would determine the next step in students' careers while completely ignoring every other factor. In August, only 6% of my students were on grade level. At this point, there are only two things for me to fall back on: relationships and progress monitoring. These two things are what have carried me through my 8 years of teaching, no matter which state, district, school, grade, or subjects I taught. The 2020-21 school year definitely proved that this is the secret ingredient to student success. My students needed to trust me, and I could then put progress monitoring to work. As soon as the scores were available, I jumped into data chats with not just the adults in the building and parents, but my students as well. In fact, the students were the first ones I shared this data with. Each child knew where they stood and where they needed to go. They were aware of not only their gaps and weaknesses, but their strengths as well. I was sure to share with them that this would definitely be a challenge, but we could all do hard things. We could use their strengths to close their gaps. Every single instructional decision, whether it was for small groups or whole group, was derived from the combination of iReady data, classroom observations, student discourse, and classroom assessments. During small groups, this would mean that some students may be working on building tens while others were subtracting three-digit numbers. This also meant fluidity. Group members would change, topics would change based on the needs of the students. I had to be sure that students were getting the prerequisite skills they needed to understand grade level standards. I also had to be sure that the 6% were being challenged and accelerated as needed. After taking the second diagnostic in the winter, 47% of my students were now on grade level. Yes, growth was happening, but my students and I wanted more. All of us still had more to give. We began to set weekly, academic, and behavior goals using the same combination I mentioned before. This gave my students even smaller math goals to work toward while building character and creating healthy work habits. Progress monitoring isn't just about an assessment 3 times a year. It's not about the adults getting together to discuss the data. Progress monitoring is about communicating with all stakeholders, including the child, to create a plan to assist students in closing their learning gaps and or accelerate their learning. When children are aware of where they are, what their goals are, and how they can reach those goals, they are more likely to work to get there. Allowing students to take part in these decision-making processes provided the students with the opportunity to take full ownership of their learning and their goals. Their success would belong to them. Not me, not their school, not their parents. It was theirs to take with them for the rest of their lives. Not only had my students shown tremendous amounts of growth, they had reached proficiency. According to the FSA data, 76% of my students had reached proficiency. They were no longer the students who lacked confidence or allowed their weaknesses to stop them. They were a group of students who started behind, but we knew that didn't mean they had to finish there. Without progress monitoring, with my students in the classroom, this wouldn't have been a story I could share with you today. Being able to continue to use progress monitoring to monitor student growth without the pressure of FSA at the end of the year is a game changer for students, their teachers, and families.
Good job. Okay, now we have Rebecca Job. So why don't you come up here and talk about your experience?
Good morning. My name is Rebecca Job. My husband Kevin is here with me. Thank you so much for allowing us to be here and giving us the opportunity to share our story. When our twin boys were in third grade, one of them had been struggling with reading. Though reading was difficult, he was still a BC student. Approximately a week before the end of school, we received a letter from the principal stating that he was in jeopardy of being retained because his standardized test scores. He had missed the cutoff by just 2 points. He would now need to attend summer school. As you can imagine, this came as a shock to us because he was not failing his coursework. We didn't understand how it was possible that, given no prior communication, he was about to be retained. He started twice weekly tutoring immediately and began summer school. At the end of summer school, he took the SAT 10, but again, he missed the cutoff by 1 point. What makes this more frustrating as a parent is that his classwork grades were average. However, because there had been no progress monitoring, we were denied our request to have him administratively promoted. The heartache and stress over what to do was immeasurable for us. My son felt defeated. Do we hold both of them back? Do we keep them together? Do we go to private school? Or do we move forward and we separate them? We ultimately moved forward at the same school. He repeated third grade and his twin went on to fourth. It was at that time I decided to leave my career of 20 years in marketing and become a teacher. I started at Florosa 3 years ago as a second grade ELA teacher. If I could prevent just one child or one family from going through what we had gone through, it could make a difference. I could make a difference. The year he attended summer school, we decided to have him tested for potential learning disabilities. As it turns out, he was diagnosed with 2. An IEP was put into place immediately. He continued his fourth grade year at the same school, but unfortunately, the progress monitoring and communication to us as parents was still not happening. Midway through the year, we made another very difficult decision to change his school and remove him from all the friends he had known since kindergarten. We had to do what was best for our son. He needed to be in an environment where we knew there was proven progress monitoring. He came to Florosa midway through fourth grade year and completed his fifth grade year here last year. Each year he grew in proficiency. He graduated from the Title I reading class he attended. He had closed the gap. He is now a sixth grader in middle school, taking advanced English and excelling with a B. Just last week, his ESC teacher emailed me to tell me how proud of him she was and that she was approving his request to take advanced English and advanced civics next year in 7th grade. I hope our story helps others see the benefits and necessity of progress monitoring. Every child deserves the opportunity to succeed, and every school owes them that chance.
Great job. All right, Superintendent of Okaloosa County Schools, Marcus Chambers.
I just want to thank you, Governor and Commissioner, for being here today, but more importantly, for your support of Okaloosa Schools. And I want to thank our board members who are here who support all of our endeavors of what we're trying to accomplish. And you just heard 2 powerful stories from 2 incredible educators. And there's more in this room right now. And if we heard all the stories about the difference that progress monitoring makes in the lives of our students and the lives of our families, I think we would really be overwhelmed. And I wanted to share just 2 quick stories with you. Yesterday, I was informed that we were accredited. And we were going through an accreditation process for about 2 years. And you get a point total. The average point total of all school districts across the nation is about 275 points to 282 points out of 400. Okaloosa scored 382 points.
Wow.
A major factor in that was classroom instruction. A major factor in that was looking at progress monitoring and the difference that we make in the lives of kids. In Okaloosa, we've been doing progress monitoring for a while. And understanding the significance of a pretest and then the instructional decisions that you make based on it, the importance of a mid-year test, and then what do you need to do to make adjustments, real-time adjustments that are being made. And that's what makes me excited about this bill that's going to be signed today. Behind me is a plaque that Florosa Elementary received. And it's an ECTAC plaque where they were honored for exceeding expectations. This is a Title I school that makes zero excuses. And this Title I school, because of progress monitoring, because of amazing teachers, amazing staff, and an absolutely outstanding principal, they exceed the expectations of what non-Title I schools are doing. And again, it's because of their attention to detail. So I could not be more proud, Governor, of this bill and the difference that it's going to make in the lives of students. So thank you.
Thank you. Yep. All right, and then really the architect of this, I remember when he came into my office and started talking about we need to get beyond the FSA, there's better ways to do this, and it's going to make a difference in the lives of students, parents, and teachers. And this was something that we had really been discussing for quite some time, and we knew that this was the year that we would be able to get it done. And so I want Commissioner of Education, Richard Corcoran, to be able to come up and say a few things.
Thank you. First, it's great to be in Okaloosa and to be with Marcus Chambers, who happened to be one of the governor's first local appointments. And he's just been fantastic, what you guys have accomplished, and your school board has been fantastic. Love working with you guys, so thank you for all you do. I also want to give a shout out to some of the folks in the back, but he hates when I say this, he denies it, but Senator Gaynor and I are actually cousins. And my wife is a Gaynor, and they're the Texas Gaynors, but they all came from the Panhandle, and so George doesn't want to admit it, but he is related to the crazy former speaker, but the senator here. And then Doug Brox and I got elected at the same time, and this last 2 years he's taken the helm at education in the Senate, and as the governor talked a lot about it, but Senator Broxton is just a champion for that early literacy, which is going to be a game changer for our state, and so it's always a pleasure to be here with a former colleague too. With that, I just want to say the governor mentioned it, but if there was a silver lining of COVID, I think this bill is one of the silver linings. We literally were having those discussions when it first hit and shutting down that rest of the school year when people were coming back from spring break. And we did have that discussion about, most of April and May is shut down for testing. Either if you're not testing, you're proctoring. Everyone's just kind of doing, that. So we ended up shutting it down. We went to the distance learning, which we know wasn't as effective. But then what we still had was that progress monitoring. And it was something that we knew the governor wanted to improve our accountability system. Accountability is a godsend. In fact, as a parent, a perfect example is it wasn't until the accountability hit that she was able to understand what was happening with her children. She seemed to be performing well, seemed to be on pace, but then the accountability hits and it opens up your eyes and you see exactly what needs to be done. And so accountability is a wonderful thing. It's done more to lift up low-income kids, children with disabilities than any other. In Florida, we do it so well, it's better than any other state in the entire union. But the governor wanted to perfect that accountability system. And because of COVID, and we saw those scores and the data, and it's like, wait a second, this data has given us the same eye-opening moment, and we don't have to shut down schools, and now we have more teaching time for kids. And it's so much fairer to teachers. It's so much more helpful to the teachers. I mean, these testimonies are great. Not only does it show you their weaknesses, it shows you their strengths. So you literally, and it's so specific to every child, you literally say, okay, Johnny is struggling with his multiplication tables, 8s and 9s. And so you have to work, don't worry about 10s, 11s, whatever, you just work on 8s and 9s. And that's how as Monique said, that's how she took a class that was 6% and brought them all the way up in a Title I environment. It's a game changer. And so, but all of it, I just do want to finish with this. All of it is, the speaker said the other day, it's a piece of a jigsaw puzzle, and this is another significant, pieces of that puzzle. But it's more than that. It's literally a beautiful piece of art. It's a painting, and the governor alluded to it. But everything that's happened, or things that he said, well, I want to do this. Whether you go back to his inaugural address about early literacy and about elimination of Common Core and getting great career and technical education. What has been accomplished the last 4 years, and this is a piece of it, has always been his number one driving thing is we're going to do whatever it takes, including during COVID. We're going to make sure a child has a seat in a classroom. We're going to make sure that children aren't a part of a COVID theater that doesn't allow them to have all the learning and all the emotional benefits of education. All of that was geared around one simple premise, and that was putting the students first and foremost with every decision we make. And you see it, whether it's choice, whether it's teacher compensation, whether it's early literacy and getting books in the hands of low-income kids, whether it's career and technical education that has exploded. It is not only has it exploded, but now we're focusing on careers that we know will lead to real skills and real jobs. All of that was part of that beautiful portrait that puts kids front and center, because what you're dealing with is the next generation, and the next generation of children or the determiner of our future as a country. And when they have that civics background, they have that literacy, then not only are we feeding your beautiful minds, but we're also hopefully feeding your beautiful hearts and souls, and hoping give you the opportunity to live wonderful, great lives with a great education. So thank you very much, Governor.
All right. Well, you guys want to crowd around here? We'll do it. So. All right. Well, we were here 6 months ago. Said we'd do it. Here we are. Guys, who wants one? You want one? Sure. You want one? Roxton, you want one? All right. There we go. Promises made, promises kept. All right. You want to get the kids and do a photo? You guys want to come do a photo? Come on.
He's a natural at that, isn't he?
Kent, he's just precious. That's his little brother.
Well, you got a nice school here.
Thank you very much.